this is why we're working at O'Brien's, because it's all about being family.
Hey everyone, I'm really excited to have Matt Dewan. Matt Dewan is a person that we interviewed some time ago. Matt Dewan was a truck driver that we interviewed because he became $1 million agent out of straight into real estate from trucks. It took him a few years. Today I'm pleased to tell you that Matt Dewan has gone to the next level. Matt Dewan is writing $1.7 million. Matt, how are you going?
Fantastic, Tom. How are you? Good. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. Matty, I want to ask you, roughly, just for our viewers, what's your average price?
With residential, around 600,000. Lifestyle, 900,000.
What suburbs do you sell?
Cranbourne South, Pearsdale, Devon Meadows.
Okay, and this is in Melbourne. How far from Melbourne City for our viewers?
So it's about 45 kilometres from this.
Okay. So, Matt, off air, we talked about the 3 or 4 things that we're going to unpack. The thing that's taken you to the next level is that you now have got a team, and the team have got clearly defined roles.
That's correct.
And you run a more structured business unit. Everyone knows what they're doing, and it's like the sum of these pieces together have been able to create, it's a bit like 1 + 1 = 3. You've got this team unit working well. But also you said to me, Tom, I'm focused in these structured call sessions. The most talked about thing that I have from real estate agents, Matt, is that they ask how often should they prospect, how many calls should they make, who do they call? Can we unpack that subject?
Of course we can. So on a weekly note, every Monday we do 2 45-minute call sessions. That's calling back any buyers that come through the OFIs from the weekend. Tuesday we do the caravan, and we'll do appraisals. Wednesday and Thursday is both call sessions. Again, 2 45-minute call sessions, Wednesday morning and Thursday morning. So throughout the week there's 3 45-minute call sessions twice.
Okay. And who in your team does a call session? You?
So I do OFI callbacks from my inspections on the weekend. Brent Day, my assistant, will do his callbacks from his OFIs. On a Wednesday, I do more the hot ones in the chase list, mainly on a Wednesday and Thursday, and Brent will do lead nurture. So he's more calling the cold leads. Okay,
let's define calls. Open for inspections, we know what they are. They're people that come to opens. Let's define now some of the other calls that you call. Who are the other people that you called? So we know OFIs who they are. What are the others? So
on a Wednesday is my appraisals, past appraisals. Yeah. So they're clients that I've met from 2 months ago right through to 6 years ago. On a Thursday, I'll then do the chase list, which are...
Who's on your chase list?
So they're potential leads, potential listings that are going to be listing within from 1 day right up to 3 months.
Okay, so these people are a high priority because they're going to be converting into dollars very soon.
That's correct.
Okay, so these are calls that Matt Dewan makes, and they to me seem to be warm calls, not cold calls.
Yeah, because they're past clients that I've had a relationship with, so...
And you've got a mobile number, and is that right?
That's correct. Yes, it is.
Right. So let's talk about other team members in your team, and you said to me that they make more colder calls.
Yeah, so we've got Brent Day, who's my buyer consultant, but Brent will also do the lead nurture. He does that on a Wednesday, and Thursday he'll do the buyer lead nurture. With the lead nurture, that means cold calls around the just listed, just solds, not only of my listings and my sales, actually of other agents that sell in our patch too.
Okay, can you describe typically what that phone call sounds like? If you're calling a cold person around another agent's signboard, what are you saying to them?
So, ring ring, hi Tom, it's Matt Dewan from O'Brien Real Estate.
Hi Matt.
Hi Tom, how are you?
Good.
We've just listed 28 Smith Street in Devon Meadows on the market. It's just been listed for $450,000. Would you like me to keep you up to date with what that sells for?
Sure. Okay, yeah, I'd be curious to know.
Fantastic. So what I'll do, I'll give you a call once the sale's been done.
Okay, so that's when you're calling me when you've listed a property.
That's correct.
What do you said you also call around signboards, other agent signboards.
That's correct.
What would that conversation be all about?
Pretty similar, Tom. It's just like, Hi Tom, it's Matt Dewan, O'Brien Real Estate. Have you noticed there's just been a listing at 28 Smith Street in Devon Meadows? And they'll say yes. No, they might say no, we haven't. Would you like me to keep you up to date when the property sells? Because they're unsure. They probably don't know if it's been listed by myself or one of my competitors. But if we're the ones who are going to keep them up to date with the sale, I'd love to hear from.
Okay, and if they do agree to want to be kept in contact, what information do you get off them?
So again, if it's just a house number we've called from, we'll get their mobile number, plus we'll get their email address.
Okay, and the original call for cold people you get from where? Where do you get that information, their names and numbers?
Ownership data.
Okay.
So you have to make sure that they're not on the do not call register.
Yeah.
It's one thing we don't do is call the people that are on do not call.
Okay, and once you enter them into a database system, what database system do you enter them into?
Agent box.
Okay, and when you're staying in contact with people, Matt, can I ask you, typically in 45 minutes, how many people would you call?
Around 30.
30? Do you generally call mobile numbers?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Have you got a rough idea of, dial numbers versus people that you actually speak to?
Yeah, so if I call 30, I'll probably normally get around 20. Normally you do get callbacks from the buyers because they actually do know who you are.
Right. So what you're saying, Matt, is that there's a warm call and a cold call. At one stage, the person that's a warm call was once a cold call, and you've got to go through that phase in real estate.
That's correct. One thing I've learned is getting prospect sellers. So if we can get 30, 40, 50 prospect sellers, it's better than having none. So prospect seller is when we put them on a database, they're cold, we've just made that one phone call, we've got all their details, and we can keep them up to date with the recent sales in the area. So it's not only in this street, it's in the surrounding streets.
Okay. Matt, if you're a young person that's watching this video right now, knowing what you know about real estate today, what's the pieces of advice you'd give them to start generating leads, putting people in their database? Is it straight out advice as just start getting on the phones?
Yeah, make sure you have an area. One thing I've learned is just have a patch of around 1,500 homes. Yeah. Try to get as many prospect sellers as you can. So just starting out, if you can get 30, 40 every month over 1 year, there's 480 prospect sellers. So you've already got just under 40% of potential sellers in your core area.
Matt, there's other people that work in your business. Yep. They don't do as good as you. Can I ask you, why do you think that you make high levels of calls and other agents don't?
One thing is I'm driven and I want results. If I'm not at work and I don't want to spend time at work, I'll actually spend time at home with the family. So I'm pretty competitive and I want to get great results.
Okay. Do you think that people are born like that, or do you think people can become that?
People can become that.
Right. What do you say to the agent that's watching this video that says that I just get too distracted or I don't have enough time to do that amount of work that you're talking about, prospecting?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one thing they need to do is, watch plenty of videos. Watch the Tom Panos, watch Josh Fegan, and just learn from the great agents. One thing we've got 105 sales staff now in O'Brien Real Estate, and one thing, we mentor each other, we train each other. I've got agents who'll ring me up and they ask for advice, and I'm happy to help them, support them. They'll come out and watch what I do. But just make sure you got systems and structure into place. It's, from 1 week to the next week should be pretty similar. Every morning, call sessions with no appointments booked in.
Okay. Matt, I want to talk about your business unit. And you said to me, Tom, what's taken me from 1 to 1.7 is that people have got clearly defined roles. Who's in your team?
So myself, I just pretty much do listing presentations and then organisation for the property go live to the market. I have Brent Day, who's my buyer consultant and prospector. I then have Marilyn, who's my administration. Right. So we have 3 different roles we have, and we have to stick by each role.
Okay. What's the biggest pieces of advice you can give to people that are about to put on their first assistant, who should they be putting on? An administration person or a sales type person?
I'd put both. When I first started, I had a buyer consultant plus also administration.
So you put on two at the same time?
No, one, but they can do a little bit of both because myself, I'd still be showing them how to run buyers, but I'd also be able to show them how to do administration. So just showing them that role. Once they actually understand how to do buyer consultant and you're building the numbers and you start getting 15, 20 listings, you can then put your third person on as administration.
Okay, Matt, how do you manage your team members? Do you have meetings with them?
Yeah, so that's one thing that we have built in our business. Every morning we have a directions meeting, which starts at 8:30 and normally goes for about 15 minutes.
Right. What are the things you cover in that meeting?
Cover is what potential leads we have coming up, potential sales, what needs to get done, and what are the next 5 things that need to happen that didn't get done yesterday. For Marilyn, the administration, we then sit down and go, okay, what's 15 things she needs to get done that hasn't been done?
Okay. Matt, can I ask you the hours that you seem to work?
Yeah, so on a Monday to Thursday, it's in the office by 8:15, and it can vary right up till 9 o'clock at night. On Fridays now, I've changed my business where a bit of family life has come in. Fridays I take the 2 kids to kinder and primary school. I then have to pick one of the daughters up from kinder at 12:45 and the girls up from school at 3:15. So Friday's pretty much a day off for me now, just to spend some family time with the kids and the wife.
Do you use the mobile phone on the Fridays?
No.
At all?
No.
So what happens? It's diverted?
Yeah, so diverted to Brent. So once I've actually clocked off at 12 o'clock, phone gets diverted to Brent. Brent will take the calls. If it's something important, he'll actually text me and say, Matt, it's urgent. Can you please call me?
Do you work on a Sunday?
No.
So you work 5 days a week?
5 and a half.
5.5. Your diary, do you use a handwritten diary?
No, calendar, Google.
A calendar? Google?
Yes.
Do you have a to-do list?
Yes.
Is that handwritten or you put that into the computer?
So that's done at the directions meeting. So when we do our directions meeting, we do the to-do list. Marilyn, once it's been finished, the meetings will be done. Marilyn will email through to myself what I need to do, what Brent needs to do, and what Maz has to do.
Okay. At the moment, how many listings are you carrying?
Around 25. I sold 16 last month, so...
16 in the month of March?
That's correct.
Outstanding. Matt, can I ask you, if I'm a vendor and I'm listed with you, how often would you speak to me?
Normally every second day, but if we're doing buyer consult, they normally get communication every second day or every day based upon we are doing buyer inspections throughout the full week. So it is something constantly. It is a big thing selling a home. It's an emotional. So I want to make sure I give them that comfort that they need.
Okay. Most of the communication is by phone or?
Phone, we do once a week vendor meetings.
Yeah.
We then catch up after at the open for inspection or after the open for inspection's been completed.
Okay, with 25 listings, would that mean that you would have yourself 25 vendor meetings a week?
Yeah, so we do them on a Wednesday. We might convert it, just depends on the vendors, Tuesday or Wednesdays.
And it's just, do you go to separate ones than your team members?
Yeah, that's correct. No, I do it all myself. So we do 15-minute meetings.
15-minute meetings at their property or the office?
At their property.
At their property. Matt, it seems like when you're at work, you're at work.
That's correct.
You're ruthless with your time. You don't hang out in the office pretending to be busy. You don't sit around just doing stuff that doesn't matter. It seems to be prospecting, these sessions that you're talking about. It seems to be vendor meetings. Buyer appointments, is it mainly open houses or you do private buyer appointments?
We do both. So I do the open homes on the weekend with Brent. Brent does most of the buyer consultants throughout the week. And unless it's a development site, I'll deal with the developers, but Brent will mainly deal with the other buyers.
Okay. Can I ask you, days that you don't feel energised, days that you don't feel focused, do they happen?
Of course.
Okay. What's the best piece of advice you give yourself on those days? Do you just get through them, or is there any tips that you can give to get back on track when you're off track?
Yeah, it's something that I'll try to get up in the mornings. Trying to keep fit is the biggest key. Yeah, I do. I sort of get on the treadmill, not every week, but when I'm getting fit, I'll normally get up in the mornings and do 3 sessions a week, do 45-minute walks, and that makes me really feel good. If I'm sort of getting off track, myself, Marilyn and Brent will have a meeting, but doing this directions meeting every single morning, it keeps us on track. Because if we're not doing a directions meeting every morning, you can get off track. By doing this meeting, it just keeps you focused and on the ball. So this month we sort of found it a little bit tough after having that big month. We had a meeting a few days ago and we've just sold 4 in the last 2 days.
Okay. How many calls do you think between you and your team members would you approximately make a week?
Probably around 300.
Do you use your mobile phone or a landline?
Mobile phone.
Mobile phone. Do you use a headpiece, or you just call off your mobile with an earpiece, or what do you do?
Yeah, no, just call off mobile.
Mobile. So even in the office you're on your mobile?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there any tips that you can give our viewers on telephone work?
Make sure if you're going to be doing call sessions, do call sessions. Have your laptop closed. Don't get disturbed, because doing 45-minute call sessions, there could be one potential lead out there that's going to earn you $10,000. It's one thing O'Brien Real Estate, myself and my team have got, is we do call sessions and we make sure we do them properly. We don't take shortcuts, because if you're doing 3 a week, there's potentially 3 to 4 leads you could be doing for the next month. So make sure you do call sessions when you're doing them.
So Matty, what you're saying is create an environment that ruthlessly eliminates distractions, having computers closed so you're not looking at them. What about entering data? When you're talking to someone, do you actually enter data as a result of that conversation anywhere, or how does that work? So
print off a calendar for the next 2 weeks. Once you're actually on the phone, someone wants to do a market appraisal, fill it in, MAP, 28 Smith Street, Devon Meadows, in that time slot. And then once you finish your call sessions, implement everything into the calendar.
Right. Do you update your database? Agent box, I think you said, or do you put much in there or not?
Yeah, once you've been to a property, you'll fill out all the information when you actually been to the property, and if they're hot, cold or warm.
What we clearly know is that prospecting attracts both what I call immediate seller appointments and future seller appointments. Immediate seller appointments are where people are going to go on the market straight away. Most of the prospecting that's done, particularly cold prospecting, is more future seller appointments. It's more leads that you're going to stay in contact with people. At a future seller appointment meeting, what do you sort of really talk about? I mean, do you drill down and talk about the marketing and the commission, or is it more relationship building?
It's more relationship building. It's one thing that I am very good at. Just finding out if they've got kids, who they barrack for in the footy, if they play sports. It's more just building a relationship where they like you, because it's not about them looking at a list. They might have a potential family member looking at a list, or friend. And so I've met Matt Dewan. Sounds like he's a really nice guy. Come over to our house. We're not quite ready to use him, but I'd highly recommend to use Matt in selling your property.
Okay, so future seller appointment, likability, trust, get them to make you recommendable, because what you're saying, even though they might not be listing there and then, they're actually going to be talking to lots of people. Let's talk about immediate seller appointments. When they're selling and they're ready to sell, Matt, do you ask for the business, or does it sort of just happen?
Bit of both. The people that know me, people I've got relationship with, sometimes it just goes so easy. They just, Matt, let's just sign the paperwork and get...
It's more like a chat.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a chat to list. But then there's people that don't know you, and it's a bit like an audition, isn't it? Like The Voice.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, so you have to go through and do your full presentation, make sure they feel comfortable, make sure you show that you're the best agent. And, with what we've got with the cross-selling, we've got plenty of points of,
So that's a point of difference, isn't it? The cross-selling, you talked to me earlier off camera, you use that as an advantage at a listing presentation.
Yeah, because we've got 105 agents now with O'Brien Real Estate. But one thing, most of our properties are actually sold, by cross-selling. We've got Cranbourne, Carrum Downs, Frankston, Berwick, Narre Warren, which we all work with the same potential vendors. So we do cross-sell a lot. Agents train together, we work together. We do get plenty of multiple offers, which we find gets great results for our vendors.
Okay. Is there any other tips that you can give agents that you've learnt help you get a listing once you're at the door? Building rapport, going through the process. What are the other things? Obviously your strength, which is the cross-selling. Is there any other thing that you think helps at a listing presentation?
Being confident. Right. Being confident, making sure you got 3 comparable sales from a low, high and middle. Yeah, just working through, asking them what they want. Asking them if there's anything else you need to help them with.
Do listing presentations and people and psychology is really interesting. Some people, Matt, just can read the play. They can walk in a house and they can actually hear not what's just being said, but what's not being said, but is meant. Do you think you've got that skill? Yeah,
I do. I think it happened with me yesterday. I signed a property up, 2.75, and they both said, we're not going to list. Within 45 minutes, we had the property signed up. They just felt confident, everything I'd mentioned, and being honest. I think that's the most important, is being honest with your vendor, because if you're not, that relationship from 1 week to the 4th week is going to be ugly.
Right. Let's touch on set to sell meetings. Do you use that? Do you have that?
Yeah, that's the most important meeting, I feel, rather than signing the authority. You want the vendor to be in control of the photography they choose and the ad. So once they've signed off on that, if we're not achieving the price the vendor's expecting, well, unfortunately, there's nothing else we can do. It's a vendor's control, so that's where you sit down and just discuss, okay, is there anything we can change with the photos, the ad? We've done the promotion. So if we've done everything right that we feel, unfortunately, it's coming back to the price.
Okay, so what you're essentially saying in dialogue is, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, if your property is not sold after a couple of weeks, it's either the price is too high or the marketing is poor. And what you're doing is you're going through the marketing, making sure that there's no issues with there, and then that, of course, leaves the one thing, and that is the figure.
Exactly right. So I sort of touch base on the 4 Ps, which you're probably familiar with.
Let's go through those for our viewers.
So the 4 Ps are, number 1 is presentation. Now, if you've done your job, once you've listed the property and walk around the property, if it's an acreage property or residential, and help them, give them guidance on what they need to remove, just so when the photo's been done. Number 2 is the position. Unfortunately, you can't change a position, so it can never be the position. If there's power lines, a property will still sell if it's priced right. Number 3 is the promotion. So if you haven't done a photo board, you haven't done the newspaper, and you've only put it on the internet, well, that's something they need to discuss. Okay, well, do we need to go further and have the photo board, the newspaper? But realistically, from day one, it should have been promoted in all those avenues.
And what's the 4th P?
Is the price.
Right.
So you always leave the price till last, because if you can get 3 ticks from position, promotion, and also the presentation, unfortunately, it's coming back to the price.
Okay, so Matt, at the set to sell meeting, when do you hold the set to sell meeting?
So that's once the photography's been done. I'll get the vendors to come in the office. We put the photos on the TV and we choose the 9 best photos.
Okay, so it's done collaboratively with the vendors, so they've got skin in the game and they're selecting them. They come into your office. You talk about the presentation. What other things are you talking at this meeting?
So we get the Section 32 signed.
Yeah. For people that aren't in Melbourne, what is a Section 32?
So that just explains everything about the property, the title, any easements, the rates, and all the costs. Okay. So it's a vendor statement which is organised. Okay.
And then is that pretty much it, or is there anything else discussed?
So we go over the Section 32. We get that signed because we don't allow a property to go live to the market. Unless there's a Section 32, we can't sell a property unless we have that Section 32. We then get them to mark off on the ad. So the ad, they have to sign off on that to say they're happy with. 3 is the photos. Number 4, we explain about the process of selling. So everything that's going to occur from A, offers in writing,
Yeah.
right through to buyer inspections, to having keys, open for inspections. If they won't provide photo ID, you're happy for us to send it away. So it goes right through every process that's going to occur throughout the sale. Once that's been secluded, they'll then sign off on it.
Because Matt, what we clearly know is that vendors hate surprises. So what you're doing is managing expectations right from the outset.
That's correct.
Okay. Matt, you've been outstanding today. You've covered the hunting and the prospecting. You've covered listing presentations. We touched on what vendor servicing is like. We touched on the importance of being busy, being productive, not being busy, being busy. And we've talked about the importance of running a business unit. It's been great having you. I love stories like this. How many years have you been in real estate now?
Just over 9 years now.
9 years in real estate and writing $1.7 million in gross commission income. And we're not necessarily talking about working in Toorak or Double Bay or Dalkeith in Perth. We're talking about working in a marketplace where you've got to sell a lot of properties. You sold how many in March?
16 in March, 12 the month, 12 in Feb and 12 in Jan.
Beautiful. The agent that generates most amount of appointments wins. This interview has again proved that.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Matt.